a billionaire father suddenly announced that he had lost everything. His mansion was gone, his companies had collapsed, and the family fortune had disappeared overnight. One daughter turned her back on him without looking back, while the other refused to leave his side. But what if I told you that the bankruptcy wasn't real? What if I told you it was all part of a dangerous plan to expose a betrayal that had been happening right under his roof? Stay with me until the end because this story has a twist you won't see coming.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Storytime with Essie. If you enjoy emotional stories with unexpected twists and valuable life lessons, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell. Now, let's begin.
Victor Lawson was one of the richest businessmen in the country. His company, Lawson Group, had grown from a small family business into a billion-dollar empire. Politicians respected him, business leaders admired him, and thousands of employees depended on his company for their livelihood. Despite his success, Victor always believed his greatest achievement wasn't his wealth. It was raising his two daughters after the death of his wife. His eldest daughter, Vanessa, was intelligent, confident, and ambitious. She had studied business overseas and dreamed of becoming the next CEO of Lawson Group. She loved luxury and believed success was measured by power and influence. Her younger sister, Grace, was completely different. She had little interest in expensive things. She treated the security guards the same way she treated executives and never considered herself better than anyone else. Although Victor loved both daughters equally, Vanessa couldn't shake the feeling that her father always admired Grace more. One afternoon, after a board meeting, Victor smiled at Grace and said, "I'm proud of the way you spoke to the staff today. A good leader never forgets the people who helped build the company." The words were simple, but they pierced Vanessa's heart. She forced a smile, yet inside she whispered to herself, "Why is it always Grace? Why can't he ever be proud of me?" A few days later, Vanessa stopped at a quiet cafe on her way home. As she waited for her coffee, a well-dressed man walked toward her. "Miss Lawson," she looked up. "Yes. My name is Richard Coe." Her smile disappeared immediately. Everyone knew Richard Coe. He was Victor Lawson's biggest business rival. "What do you want?" Vanessa asked coldly. Richard smiled as he sat opposite her. "I only came to tell you the truth. I don't have time for games. This isn't a game." He placed a brown envelope on the table. "Open it." Vanessa hesitated for a moment before picking it up. Inside were photographs. One showed Victor and Grace leaving a private meeting with senior executives. Another showed Grace reviewing confidential company documents with her father. Vanessa frowned. "What is this supposed to mean?" Richard leaned closer and spoke quietly. "Your father has already chosen his successor." Vanessa laughed. "You're lying." "Am I?" Richard folded his hands. "Tell me something. When was the last time your father trusted you with confidential company files?" Vanessa remained silent. Richard continued. "When was the last time he invited only you to an executive meeting?" Still no answer. "You've spent years believing you'll inherit Lawson Group, but your father has been preparing Grace all along." Vanessa looked down at the photographs again. For the first time, doubt crept into her heart. Maybe, just maybe, Richard was telling the truth. Vanessa couldn't stop thinking about what Richard had said. All the way home, his words echoed in her mind. "Your father has already chosen Grace." She tried to convince herself it was a lie, but deep down, she wasn't so sure anymore. That evening, the Lawson family had dinner together as usual. Victor smiled as he looked at both daughters. "I have an important announcement to make tomorrow." Vanessa immediately looked up. "Is it about the company?" Victor smiled. "You'll find out tomorrow." Vanessa's heart started racing. This must be it, she thought. Tomorrow, Dad is going to announce Grace as his successor. She barely touched her food. Grace noticed. Vanessa, are you okay? I'm fine. No, you're not. I said I'm fine. The dining room fell silent. Victor looked at Vanessa. What's bothering you? She forced a smile. Nothing, Dad. I've just had a stressful day. Victor nodded slowly, but something told him his daughter wasn't being honest. The next morning, Victor arrived at the office earlier than usual. As he walked toward his office, he noticed two security officers questioning an employee. His assistant, James, hurried over. Sir. What happened? We discovered that someone has been leaking confidential company information. Victor stopped walking. What? James lowered his voice. Our competitors somehow knew about every major project before we announced it. Victor frowned. Have you found out who's responsible? Not yet. Victor looked through the glass walls of his office. Someone close to him was betraying the company. But who? Later that afternoon, Victor met privately with his lawyer. Daniel Brooks closed the office door. I've completed the investigation. Victor looked at him. And? Daniel placed a file on the table. The information wasn't stolen by an employee. Victor frowned. Then who? Daniel took a deep breath. The leak started after someone inside your family shared confidential documents. Victor's face changed. My family. Daniel nodded. We don't know why. But someone very close to you has been helping Richard Cole. Victor slowly sat down. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. Finally, he looked at Daniel and said, if that's true, then I need to know who it is. Daniel nodded. I already have a plan. Victor looked up. No. I have a better one. Daniel frowned. What are you thinking? Victor stood up and walked toward the window. If I accuse the wrong person, I'll destroy my family. So instead, I'm going to let the truth reveal itself. Daniel looked confused. How? Victor turned around. I'm going to make everyone believe that I've lost everything. Daniel's eyes widened. You mean fake bankruptcy? Victor nodded. If someone is only interested in my money, they'll leave. If someone is working with Richard, they'll make their next move. And when they do, I'll finally know who has been betraying me. Daniel smiled. It's risky. Victor sighed. I know. But sometimes, the only way to expose the truth is to take away everything people think they want. 48 hours later, the country woke up to shocking headlines. Breaking news. Billionaire Victor Lawson declares bankruptcy. Lawson Group collapses after massive financial crisis. Television stations carried the story all day. Social media exploded with reactions. People couldn't believe that one of the richest men in the country had lost everything overnight. Inside the Lawson mansion, reporters crowded the entrance while cameras flashed from every direction. Victor gathered his daughters in the living room. My girls, he said calmly, the bank will be here in an hour. We have to leave. Vanessa shook her head in disbelief. No, this can't be happening. I'm sorry, Victor replied. I've done everything I could. Just then, several bank officials walked through the front gate with security officers. One of them handed Victor an envelope. Mr. Lawson, by order of the court, this property has been repossessed. Grace couldn't hold back her tears. She looked around the house where she had spent her entire childhood. Dad, where are we going to stay? Victor forced a smile. I rented a small apartment across town. Vanessa laughed bitterly. A small apartment. You expect me to live in some tiny place? It's only temporary, Victor answered. Vanessa grabbed her handbag. I can't do this. Victor looked at her. What do you mean? I've worked too hard to end up like this. Grace stared at her sister. Vanessa is our father. I know exactly who he is. She turned back to Victor. I love you, Dad, but I can't throw my life away because of your mistakes. Without waiting for anyone to stop her, Vanessa walked out of the mansion. Victor called after her. Vanessa. She paused for a moment, but she never looked back. Grace watched her sister disappear through the gate. Then she turned to her father, wiped away her tears, and smiled. Dad. I'm not going anywhere. Victor looked at her. You know life is going to be difficult. I don't care. We may not have money anymore. But you're still my father. Victor hugged her tightly. For the first time in years, he cried. A few hours later, Vanessa arrived at Richard Cole's office. Richard smiled as soon as he saw her. I knew you'd come. Vanessa sat down without saying a word. Richard poured her a glass of water. So, your father's empire has finally fallen. Vanessa sighed. I still can't believe it. Richard smiled. You don't have to suffer with him. What are you saying? I have a place for you in my company. Vanessa looked surprised. You'd hire me? Richard leaned back in his chair. You're talented. And besides, you're a Lawson. I know you'll be useful. Vanessa smiled for the first time that day. Maybe this was a chance to start over. But she had no idea Richard wasn't trying to help her. He was using her. Life changed overnight for the Lawson family. The mansion was gone. The luxury cars were gone. The private chefs, the bodyguards, and the servants had all disappeared. Victor and Grace moved into a small two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. For the first time in their lives, they had to cook their own meals, clean the house, and manage every naira carefully. One evening, Grace returned home carrying a small bag of groceries. Dad, she called with a smile, I got us some rice, vegetables, and chicken. We can make stew tonight. Victor looked at the bag and smiled. How much did all that cost? Grace laughed. Don't worry. I found a discount. Victor couldn't stop staring at his daughter. She had grown up in luxury, yet she never complained. Grace. Yes, Dad. I'm sorry you have to go through all of this because of me. Grace walked over and hugged him. Please don't say that. Money comes and goes. You're still the best father anyone could ask for. Victor smiled, but deep inside, his heart was breaking. At that moment, he became even more certain that his plan had been worth it. Meanwhile, Vanessa had settled into her new office at Richard Cole's company. Richard treated her like royalty. He gave her a luxurious office, an expensive company car, and promised her a senior executive position. One afternoon, Richard called her into his office. I have a small favor to ask. Vanessa smiled. Anything. Richard opened a file. I heard your father still has copies of Lawson Group's original client contracts. Vanessa looked confused. But the company is gone. Richard smiled. Maybe. But those documents could still be valuable. Vanessa hesitated. I don't think Dad would keep them. Richard leaned closer. Find out. For the first time, Vanessa felt uncomfortable. She had never imagined helping Richard after her father's downfall. But Richard wasn't finished. If you do this for me, I'll announce you as my company's executive director. Vanessa's eyes lit up. Executive director. It was the position she had always wanted. She looked at Richard and slowly nodded. I'll see what I can do. Richard smiled to himself. Everything was going according to plan. What Vanessa didn't know was that Victor had hired a private investigator before announcing his fake bankruptcy. Every phone call, every meeting, every visit was being recorded. That night, Vanessa couldn't sleep. She kept asking herself one question. Am I helping myself, or betraying my father? For the first time since meeting Richard, guilt began to creep into her heart. The next morning, Victor's private investigator arrived at the apartment. Mr. Lawson. Victor opened the door. What did you find? The investigator handed him a flash drive. Everything is here. Phone recordings. Security footage. Emails. Victor took the flash drive with trembling hands. And the investigator sighed. I'm afraid your daughter has been meeting Richard Cole in secret. Victor closed his eyes. Even though he had expected it, the truth still hurt. The investigator continued. We also discovered that Richard isn't interested in giving Vanessa a job. Victor looked up. What do you mean? He's viewing her. As soon as he gets what he wants, he plans to throw her away. Victor clenched his fist. My own daughter is being manipulated. The investigator nodded. But there's still time. Victor looked at the flash drive. No. It's time to end this. The following day, Vanessa used the key Richard had given her and quietly entered her father's old office. The building was almost empty. She searched through the cabinets until she found a black file with the words, Project Phoenix. Just as she reached for it, a voice echoed behind her. I was wondering when you'd come. Vanessa froze. Slowly, she turned around. Standing in the doorway was her father, Victor Lawson. Looking directly into her eyes, Vanessa's hands began to shake as she slowly turned around. Dad. Victor stood quietly at the doorway. His face wasn't angry. It was filled with disappointment. I was hoping you wouldn't come. Vanessa immediately dropped the file. Dad. I can explain. Victor slowly walked toward her. Can you? The room fell silent. After a few seconds, Vanessa burst into tears. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Victor looked at the file on the table. Then why are you here? Vanessa wiped her tears. Richard told me you never trusted me. He said you had already chosen Grace to take over the company. He showed me pictures of you and Grace attending private meetings. I thought I was never good enough. Victor sighed deeply. Oh, Vanessa. You never asked me if it was true. Vanessa lowered her head. I was afraid of the answer. Victor gently picked up the file. The company never collapsed. It was all a test. Vanessa covered her mouth. So all this time. Victor finished her sentence. I was watching. I wanted to know who would stand beside me when they believed I had nothing. At that moment, Grace walked into the office. She looked at Vanessa with tears in her eyes. Vanessa couldn't hold herself together anymore. She ran toward her sister. I'm so sorry. I let jealousy destroy our family. Grace hugged her tightly. I forgive you. Both sisters cried in each other's arms. Victor wiped away a tear. This is all I ever wanted. My family. A few days later, Victor invited the company's board of directors, employees, and the media to a special conference. Everyone expected him to announce the next CEO. Victor walked onto the stage with both daughters standing beside him. He smiled before speaking. Over the past few weeks, I carried out the hardest test of my life. I didn't do it to embarrass my daughters. I did it because one day, this company will belong to one of them. The audience listened silently. Victor continued. I discovered something important. Wealth doesn't reveal character. Loss does. He looked at Grace. When everyone believed I had lost everything, Grace stayed. Then he looked at Vanessa. And Vanessa made a terrible mistake. The room became quiet. But Victor smiled. She admitted her mistake. She asked for forgiveness. And that takes courage. Vanessa lowered her head. Victor held both daughters' hands. I have decided that Lawson Group will no longer belong to one person. Gasps filled the hall. It will belong to both of my daughters. Vanessa looked surprised. Grace smiled. Victor continued. Grace will serve as the chief executive officer because she has proven she can lead with compassion. He turned to Vanessa. And Vanessa will serve as the executive director. Because leadership isn't about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them. The audience erupted into applause. The sisters hugged their father as cameras flashed across the room. Money can build a business, but only character can build a family. Vanessa almost lost everything because she believed a lie instead of trusting the people who loved her. Grace proved that true wealth isn't measured by what's in your bank account, but by the people who stand beside you when life becomes difficult.